I'm Dr. André Mitash. Welcome to the Science of Traveling Well. Let's travel someplace new together. Today, I'm going mountain biking. Maybe it sounds strange for such a flat place as the Netherlands, but a highly reputed, technical, challenging 9-kilometer single track can be found close to home in Breda, near the village of Dorst. I'm trying this track for the first time today, and I'm doing it in a slightly stupid way, on a road bike. I've crammed the fattest tires on there that will fit, but still, it's a road bike. The brakes are small, the parts are delicate, and there's no suspension. This is going to be interesting, I was thinking. To make matters worse, it was only my third time mountain biking, and the first time had not been good. I would say that that time the track rode me, not the other way around. So joining me for the ride was my friend Eric and his son. Nothing like me, they were well-equipped, experienced mountain bikers. I was curious how much they would have to wait for me. I need not have worried. We had a fantastic time. I found the track's technical challenges put me in flow, the state of mind where you lose track of time and totally focus on the task at hand and the feedback it's giving you. Feedback of tree roots pounding my bike into my shoulders, sand giving way under my wheels, and generally just holding on to dear life. It was great, in other words. It challenged me, it brought me face to face with nature, and I worked a whole different set of muscles than road cycling. But what does the science say? Is there research on mountain biking and other challenging experiences, how they work, and what sort of impact they create? Joining us to talk about this is Dr. Peter Ward, professor at Brigham Young University in the U.S., experienced impact expert, and occasional mountain biker. Peter, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
First off, Peter, you live and work in Utah, one of the world's great mountain biking destinations. Tell us about mountain biking in Utah.
Well, really, mountain biking in Utah is a mecca for the whole world. We have lots and lots of mountain biking trails, and I would say every year hundreds of miles are being added in mountain biking trails. We have mountain biking that ranges from mountain biking above 10,000 feet, so that is about the tree line. In steep mountainous climbs to nice flows in the desert that is relatively flat with a few hills in, to the Moab area, which some people would say some of the best mountain biking in the world on the red slick rock that people enjoy to go and ride. It really is a mountain biking mecca in Utah.
Okay. And can you tell us about your own path in mountain biking? How did you get started? How often do you ride? And what do you get out of it?
Well, I think growing up in Utah, there's lots of mountains. And so I would get out in the mountains and I would ride. And I probably started riding when I was in my early teens.
Okay.
And I would get out and I would ride. And it was fun. It was more of a social activity that I'd do with my friends. We would go up and ride a couple trails, maybe build some jumps, and do those type of things up in the mountains. Then I kind of stopped riding for a lot of years and really started road riding, and got my cycling in there and enjoyed just kind of the focus and the meditation state that you can achieve when you're road riding.
Yeah.
And then when I started to have kids, I started, well, I guess even before that, when I was married, my wife liked to mountain bike, and we lived up in Washington State, and there's beautiful mountains up there. So oftentimes on a weekend, she would say, "Hey, let's go mountain biking." Okay. And she bought me an updated mountain bike. So granted, that was 25 years ago, but updated for then. And we would go up and do mountain biking then, and it was fun. And we probably rode a couple times a week, up until probably the last several years, when my children started really getting into mountain biking. My youngest child, he races competitively. Okay. He's one of the he's in the top 20 for his age group, being he's 16 years old now for Utah, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
because there's thousands of riders that are his age. And to spend time with him, I went and I would ride. And since he was so good at riding on the hills, he would climb the hill and come back and meet me, find me wherever I was on the hill, and then we climbed the rest of the way. But something that was really kind of fun is, since he was so good and he was being coached, he learned a lot of technique.
Okay.
And he started sharing that technique with me.
Okay.
And being like, telling me, hey, Dad, instead of shifting the gear, drop your chest closer to your stem. And that's like a half of a gear pickup in climbing. I'm like, oh, okay. So I started learning all these really fun, cool techniques to riding that actually made riding so much more enjoyable, because it made it easier on my body and I didn't have to work as hard.
Yeah.
So mountain biking's always been a kind of a social activity for me from the time I was young, doing it with my friends and building jumps on some of the trails up in the mountains, to with my wife when we would go out and do it and just have nice, beautiful rides up in our mountains, to with my son now who races competitively, and who it gives me a way to be able to spend time with him doing something that he enjoys doing.
That's interesting, and it's kind of a common thread with the experience that I had, like the person I was doing it with. And you don't always hear that about road riding, but it's the common thread in what you are telling. Okay, so I'm curious now about the science behind this. Is there research that can tell us about what makes mountain biking a great experience?
This is really interesting. And when you asked me, I dove in and I started looking at, is there any specific research related to mountain biking? And there's kind of a couple different trends that I found. First of all, people are trying to make mountain biking a better experience by building more trails, making it more accessible,
right?
Making it to where you can go and park your car and have access to maybe 40, 50 miles worth of trails that are different in abilities. So you can go and you can like go with the social aspect, and some people can go ride very hard. Some people can go ride easier, and then the trails all kind of overlap on each other. Right. So I think that's one way that that they're trying to make mountain biking more accessible and more of an experience, is by making it accessible to a whole group of people and then breaking it up according to their ability.
Yeah, that also, as a side note, that also counts for the place that I visited. So, if what you're seeing now, it looks too difficult, there's an easier one next to it.
Yeah.
And a convenient parking place right in between the two of them.
Yeah, so I think the mountain bike community is realizing, let's make this an experience where everybody can enjoy to be able to mountain bike. Then the next part of it, and you touched on this on your introduction, and I think this really happens with a lot of outdoor adventure and type of activities, and mountain biking is classified as an outdoor adventure activity.
Okay,
it's really when you start talking about flow. And you look at, the prime spot, the sweet spot that you hit between challenge and skill.
Yeah.
And when you have those things, the I guess the aspects of flow, you lose track of time. You become very focused on what you're doing. And I think, flow is something that you can achieve in mountain biking once you've climbed kind of an initial learning curve, relatively easy. And so I think that some of the science why people are enjoying it so much is that they're able to get out and fairly quickly move into a flow state, move into a state where they can set a goal for themselves and achieve that goal and become focused because of in Utah, because of the wide range of terrain that we have to that we have to mountain bike. And then the last thing I think is, if we look at some of like Robert Louv's work and being in the outdoors and the benefits, just the psychological benefits that we maybe aren't even aware of ourselves, of just when we're in the outdoors, being creative. How are we going to get around a certain spot? What are we receiving from the outdoors that we're not necessarily getting inside of our stagnant indoor life that so many people throughout the world are living?
Yeah.
So I think these are some of possibly the scientific reasons why people are getting outdoors. I know for me, or outdoors mountain biking, I know for me, probably the biggest draw to it is the restoration, the emotional, and even though mountain biking is physical, the physical restoration that I get, the spiritual rejuvenation that I get when I'm out there, then also just being able to know almost every single time that I go mountain biking, I'm going to be able to achieve some state of flow, and be there. And so those are kind of some of the ideas that I have around that.
Okay, great. Yeah, I recognize that as well, because it's just, at least this course is immediately so twisty that it grabs your entire attention.
Mm-hmm.
And in previous episodes, we've talked about, how important that kind of sucking of your attention into the present moment is for the enjoyment of an experience. And I think in mountain biking, it's specifically like the challenge and not dying and just kind of staying upright that immediately grabs your attention, and that makes it so much fun. In contrast to road cycling, like you say, where that moment-to-moment challenge isn't there. So what you're really up against is kind of an ocean of your own thoughts, and you just keep riding until that ocean sort of quiets down. Also a great experience, but totally different.
Yeah. Very, very different.
So I'd like to hear about now the impact of mountain biking. So you've done a lot of research on experience impact, and I'd just like to hear briefly what you mean when you talk about experience impact, and then how we should understand the impact of a single mountain bike ride on the one hand, and the impact of, let's say, your own life in mountain biking, like the impact of years of regular mountain biking as you have enjoyed.
Yeah, so I guess when I look at experience impact, something that we talk about is the experience taxonomy. Looking at it from meaningful, or first of all mindful, then memorable, meaningful, and transformational. I don't know if I can say I've had any one ride that has been transformational. To where it's really changing who I am and how I go about living life and things like that. But I would say the collective of the rides added together have been transformational, and how I do things and how I treat the environment.
Okay.
In like what I think about in the environment, even though mountain biking is a sport that is sometimes hard on the environment, I'll think to myself, hey, today's rainy. The trails are wet. I shouldn't go out there because that's not the way I should be treating the environment, treating the trails, and leaving that type of thing, ruts on the trails.
Yeah.
Something that I've really enjoyed that I didn't think I would enjoy is actually trail building.
Okay.
And going out with my son's racing team, and we're required to put in so many volunteer hours a year as parents. And so they have all these different options, and I'll oftentimes like to go out and trail build. Okay. And so we have different people that are in charge. So we're not just willy-nilly putting up trails wherever. And it's kind of interesting how they have given thoughts to where can we build these trails that are going to not have a huge impact on the environment. For example, we don't want to build a trail where we're going to have runoff, because then it's just going to turn into a stream or a river every time we have runoff. But also we want to build trails that are going to be able to not have, I guess, not an impact on the environment, but a social impact on hikers, because that is a big conflict. Hikers and mountain bikers, you don't have to be on a trail that's shared very often before you'll start to feel that there's a conflict there. Where can we build a trail that will either allow hikers to be able to participate together and have places to go to the side to get off the trail, or mountain bikers to get off the trail, or how could we build them even separate and make them separate so it's not attractive to a hiker, but maybe attractive to a mountain biker to be able to separate them. So that sustainability is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect, transformational, it's winter where I'm from right now, starting to become spring, and I'm starting to think about, oh, hey, I've put a few winter pounds on. Maybe it's time I start thinking,
transform the body.
Transform the body. Let's start going out and maybe doing some road rides to get my lungs in shape, and to think, oh, I maybe will eat a little less because I want to be able to get my body up the hill more.
That's funny, because I could totally imagine losing weight mountain biking, because I feel like it works so much of the body. And once you're halfway on the trail, I mean, you gotta just kind of keep going and finish the loop.
Yeah.
But I feel like the more I road ride, the heavier I am, because it's from one snack stop to another.
That's funny.
And when you bonk after those 20 miles, 30 miles, or whatever, you have nothing left to do. So I put on weight when road riding.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I try to get a little lighter for mountain biking. And then I alluded to the last point, and you've mentioned on this as far as like transformation goes, is really the way it has transformed my relationship with those who I ride.
Okay, yeah.
Mountain biking can be a sport where people get a lot of ego around how good they are or how fast they can go. I choose not to ride with people like that.
Okay.
I ride with people who want to be out for the enjoyment of nature and being with who they're with, and just enjoying living in the moment.
Yeah.
So I think it's transformational on that end. As far as meaningful and memorable, I have memorable times where I'll ride to just an amazing waterfall or an amazing lake, and you just sit and relax and just think, wow, does life really get nicer than this?
Yeah. I totally recognize that. So I think it's a good moment to wrap up, as always, with some practical advice. And first, I wanted to ask you about someone like my wife, who loves nature, loves sport, but isn't super brilliant at bike handling and is afraid of falling. So should someone like that, let's say, stick to road riding, but maybe in natural areas, or should she even try mountain biking? What advice to get started would you give to someone in that situation?
Okay, my advice would be definitely try mountain biking. It's a different sport than road riding, even though you feel like your legs are, you're kind of in the same motion. Definitely try it, especially for someone who loves nature and just wants to be outside. My advice is, first of all, don't push her. Let her go, and let her, as a new rider, develop at her own speed, at her own skill level, instead of trying to. I think we as men sometimes are trying to push always what we're doing. But just let her be comfortable doing it and enjoying the sport on her own terms.
Okay.
As far as technical things go, definitely don't get clipless pedals for her to start with. As she gets better, she'll want them and she'll ask for them. But wait for her to ask for them, because it does make maneuvering the bike easier. But just the idea of being trapped into your bike and you see yourself falling and you're already nervous and you can't get your foot out, because you do fall a lot more in mountain biking. Than you do in road riding. So that's what that's what I would. Those are some of my suggestions. Find easy trails. Trails are rated green, blue, black. Start out on green trails, and then read the reviews, so you really know kind of what you're getting into, and just take it on her terms and take it as times to enjoy being with her. And I think she will eventually really enjoy riding, and she'll enjoy riding with you.
Well, thanks for the fantastic advice. So I want to offer some specific practical information about the mountain bike route that I went on. It's a loop of about 9 kilometers starting from the pancake restaurant Hannebroek. And if you want to start a bit easier, it's the situation that Peter was talking about where there's like one start off point for multiple mountain bike trails of multiple difficulty. So on the opposite side of the highway, there's a loop of similar size but somewhat gentler climbs and turns, starting from the road Kadettenkamp in Teteringen. And these are all like suburbs of Breda. So if you start out in Breda, you can sort of bike to the trailhead in about 10 or 15 minutes. Remember that in the Netherlands, mountain biking single tracks are one way and they're loops. So make sure that you start in the right direction. And Saturdays are much quieter than Sundays. And with that, I'm going to thank Peter so much for joining us today. And until next time, everyone, happy travels.
Thank you.
The Science of Traveling Well was initiated partly thanks to an HBO postdoc grant of the Regieorgaan Stichting Innovatie Alliantie of the Dutch government.